Merry Christmas, everybody, and almost a Happy New Year. We're almost to 2024. This is episode 45. I can't believe it. This is really exciting. We're covering very exciting things today, such as dozens were stranded on Red Lake. I feel bad about this, but we're going to have to talk about, the early ice situation that happens up here in the Northland. People get really stupid. Did you know that Sea-Doos make great walleye boats? Supposedly, someone did very well in a tournament out of one. Hydrogen-powered outboards. Yes, they're making them. We're going to be talking about it. World Ice Fishing Championship. Yes, there is such a thing. A wacky Japanese monster bait I got to show you guys. And so much more. What do you say we get this podcast rolling?
This isn't another fishing podcast. This is another fishing podcast.
Well, Merry Christmas, first and foremost. I'm very excited to be doing this podcast. It is Christmas, and I am decked out. I got my PJs on, my cat PJs. Thank you very much. And, of course, this wonderful Santa hat. I think I look fantastic. And, I am ready to do this podcast. I hope everybody's having a great Christmas and looking forward to 2024. What is happening in the world of angling uploaded? What is going on? Well, I'll tell you one thing. We have crazy, crazy weather here. It is like, this is El Nino, but it is very tropical out. That's a exaggeration, trust me. But I'm looking out my window here, and there is, I live on a small little lake, and there is water on top of it. It looks amazing, really. It looks glassy. It looks kind of like there isn't any ice. So there's a lot of melt happening. I think it's like 45 out right now. It does not feel like Christmas. It does not feel like winter. But it's making things kind of difficult. I don't know. I haven't actually been ice fishing yet. I'm going to do that soon, but it needs to get a little bit colder out for me to feel comfortable, and that has not yet happened. So it's weird. This is a weird Christmas. It does not feel at all like Christmas. There's no snow on the ground. But it's okay because I hate winter weather, for driving. I'm like a nervous cat, like one of the cats here on my pajamas. But I'm fine that it's just not wild, stupid winter weather right now, and it's somewhat this Gulf moisture, this El Nino moisture. Not so much moisture, I would say, but air mass. We are in a drought still. I wish it was some moisture, but. It's a bizarre winter. Heck, technically the winter just started, so hopefully we'll get some cold. I'll be able to start confidently ice fishing. I really am not an early ice guy, and I'll tell you why here shortly. But we want to get into this podcast. We want to get deep into this Merry Christmas podcast, and we're going to start off. Let's start off with this, okay? I'm trying to debate whether I'm going to go, where I'm going to go fishing this week. And I've always got the mighty Mississippi River. I'm not far from a stretch of the Mississippi River that stays open all winter long because of a warm water discharge from a nuclear power plant. So that's always a great option. I love that option. Great big smallmouth. So that, it's really good. I was just out there. You're going to see that video soon, but did relatively okay. But it's the thing that I'm like, okay, I got to do another shoot. I want to get 2 shoots in a week. So I'm like, where can I go, right? And one thing that really spooks me, I want to go down to Red Wing and try some walleyes. But the problem with that is last week I took my truck. I have a 95 Chevy Silverado pickup truck. It's got 302,000 miles on it, coming up on 303,000 miles. And and I'm pulling a 2021 Tracker Targa V18 walkthrough. Okay, so it's a heavier boat. It's aluminum, but it's still heavy, all right? It's got a tandem axle trailer. It's a heavy rig. And I don't know if my truck is super wanting to do this so much anymore. And so what happened is I'm headed down to Red Wing, gonna meet my buddy Pete. If you guys have followed another fishing show, you've followed Angling Uploaded, you know Pete Wagner. Heck, I started this whole operation with him. We're going, we're planning on going down to Red Wing for some walleyes. If you're not familiar with that area, they got a nuclear warm water discharge down there too. And unfortunately, it didn't really, well, what happened was I was probably maybe 10 miles away from home, and my truck just starts hesitating, pulling this rig, pulling my rig down there. Like it was like starved of oxygen. It was just like I would press on the gas, and it would just hesitate and just like it just, I don't know how else to kind of describe it. It was hesitating, and I'd have to really press on the gas to get it up and going and get the hell out of there. If I stopped at like a stop sign, or what happened was I actually stopped because I felt it hesitating. I'm like, I have got to go to a gas station and figure out what's going on here. Just pull over. So I pulled to make a left-hand turn, and the thing just died. And so I stuck there for a while. I was able to restart it and really gun the gas and get it into a quick trip, and just kind of sit there at the Quick Trip parking lot and just go, what am I going to do? I mean, should I call a tow truck now, or should I try to get this thing back home? And I decided I would try to get this thing back home. And it was not, it's always very stressful. This has happened to me before with this truck, but not pulling a boat. And so whenever you're at a stop sign or a stoplight, it's going to die. So I basically just made the decision that I'm not going to call a tow truck or anything. I'm trying to get back home. And so I basically gunned it out of the Quick Trip, blew through a couple of stop signs and a stoplight, and thankfully made it home, parked it. I had actually it wasn't old, it was a new, but it had been sitting in my garage for a long time, air filter. I was like, could it be the air filter? I don't know, but I have this thing it's been sitting in my garage forever. I'm like, I just want to get rid of this thing. So I put it in there, and then, disconnected my truck and, went down the road to the place where I get my truck fixed, and it never did it again. It never did it. I still took it in to get my, I took it into this place to get, place I usually take my truck into. I told him what happened. I said, while you have it, hopefully it'll do what it was doing to me earlier, but can you also just give it an oil change, check the tire pressure? And I proceeded then to go to a local bar that was not far from there, kill some time. They called me back and said, it was like several hours later, I was thoroughly, let's call it buzzed. My wife did come and pick me up. Okay, she was planning on it. I did sober up, but my point is, I don't know why I'm going off on this. I'm the king of tangents. But anyway, so the point make a long story short, they couldn't figure out what was wrong, what was wrong with the truck. So now I'm like, okay, it's working fine. Maybe it was the air filter, but everything's working good now. And I just decided that, I'm going to hold off and drive this thing a little bit longer before I take it an hour and a half away from me, or an hour and a half from my home to Red Wing, and try to film a walleye and sauger video. So that's the thing. I'm worried about the health of my truck. So that's kind of what's happening in Angling Uploaded news. But let's get into the real meat and potatoes of this podcast, which is, get in my notes here, fishing news. All right, so this always happens. Early ice, it's ridiculous I'm not an early ice angler, as I've said in the past, and early ice is, it's very scary to me. I lost a friend who I had worked with a lot doing ice fishing videos, and he had passed away while ice fishing. And so I'm very, even before that, I was nervous about early ice, but now I'm really nervous. And so I don't mess with early ice conditions, but there are a lot of people that do. And I think, you gotta, come on, people. We gotta use our heads here, okay? I understand the urge to go out and fish and have a good time catching a lot of fish. Early ice can be awesome fishing, but it's not worth your life. This happens. So this is the first time you found this podcast. I live in Minnesota. This happens every year in Minnesota. We have people that get stranded up on this upper lake, northern lake, called Red Lake. And so it happened again. And so this is from a news report, Care 11, which is outfit here in Minneapolis, which is not far from me. They did a report on several anglers getting, I guess they're anglers. I imagine they were anglers. Why else would you be on the ice, really, right? That got stuck on Upper Red Lake in northern Minnesota because the wind started blowing. And, well, I'll just listen to this.
Dozens of people are home safe tonight after rescue crews were sent out to save them from the ice on Upper Red Lake.
The situation turned dire when an ice floe began to move away from shore. Sharon, you joins us now. And Sharon, you spoke with Beltrami County first responders about this.
Yeah, Lauren, Randy, officials say it's way too early in the season, especially under windy circumstances like Upper Red Lake saw yesterday. And while the recommendation is technically 10 inches of ice for a snowmobile,
that is not true.
Wind,
that is not true. I'll show you why she's wrong.
That safety calculation.
You're not surprised that she wouldn't know what she's talking about.
Their winter.
Yeah, I'm gonna go dive underneath the ice on purpose.
So much that when it doesn't come fast enough, we force it to.
So all of the snow is saved from the trails at the ski area. So we take our big snowcats and we push it into a massive pile in a shaded area, kind of behind where all the action is.
But when winter isn't ready, no amount of eagerness can convince it.
Sometimes I feel like we're repeating the same message every year.
Evidenced by this rescue that happened Sunday afternoon where an ice sheet broke off from Upper Red Lake, leaving 35 people stranded.
There was an open water of about 100 yards between the main portion of ice and the upper portion.
This, like winter, happens every year.
We see it more often than not up on Upper Red Lake just because of the geographical size of the lake and its inability to freeze over completely. We'll see probably 2 to 3 events that get reported to us. A lot of times the local resorts up there, part of the fee that you're paying to go out on the lake is for them to assist you should you need assistance.
But when an ice rescue needs to be done by law enforcement, the toll is heavy.
Especially during this time of the year, just because of the frequency of use. We do involve an ambulance crew. We do involve several fire departments, the DNR, and then law enforcement in general. And it does eat up a considerable amount of time and resources.
Luckily, no one was injured, but we just wanted to reiterate that departments like the Kelleher Fire Department, they're all volunteers. So after that rescue late into yesterday, they had to all go back to their day jobs today. So it's one of those things where it's nicer when folks are a little bit more careful and prudent about their actions. Lauren?
Yeah, definitely a good reminder, Sharon. Thank you.
All right. Well, you get the point there. So I love newscasts because I feel very confident that no one in that newscast actually ice fishes or fishes, period. They're city folk. Let's just be honest. So I think it's funny that they want to start kind of I don't know, telling, they're preachy a little bit, but preachiness is important this time of year. I mean, I don't want to preach. I don't want it to be preachy, but you got to be careful out there, right? So, but the woman there, the reporter, was not right about the guidelines. These are the guidelines, right? Okay, so the recommended minimum ice thickness, rough guidelines for new clear ice. Now, that is important. Rough guidelines for new clear ice only, okay? We're talking good ice here, good clear ice. All right, so 4 inches... 4 inches, you're good to walk around, start ice fishing. 5 inches for a snowmobile or ATV, okay? She said 10 inches. She was wrong there. 8 to 12 inches car or small pickup, and then 12 to 15 inches a medium truck. So, yeah. So, I'm not surprised that someone in the news would actually, someone that's a journalist, someone that should actually know better doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. But we don't need to go into that because Anyway, so that news from, Upper Red Lake. And like I said, there's always stuff that happens this time of year. Always. And so just be careful. Don't get so keyed up about, catching a big fish that you lose your mind, okay? A big fish. There's some fish that are almost worth your life. Almost. Still not worth your life, okay? So, all right, so what are we up to next? No, so this is pretty wild. So this is from Target Walleye. If you've never heard of Target Walleye, you should hear about them. You should know about them. They have a website, so you can check out Target Walleye. And also, this is what I get to my email weekly is their newsletter. So it's like an email newsletter, Target Walleye. I get a ton of information from them. A lot of what I glean a lot of stuff. Just to make this podcast possible. But there's also a lot of good tips there if you're a walleye angler or ice angler. So in the winter, they get more about, ice fishing. So it's a great resource. Brett McComas, thumbs up. Thank you, Brett, too, if you're listening to this. You've promoted this podcast before. And actually, I just realized that you promoted our podcast that we did with Jason Mitchell recently. So, well, it wasn't recent. It was actually a podcast that I'd done a while ago, but it's the first time I actually brought the full video up on the Angling Uploaded YouTube channel. And, before it was just for Patreon supporters. So now I brought it, just put the full thing, the video podcast, up on the Angling Uploaded YouTube channel. So I appreciate Brett McComas for promoting that. So he's done that on the Target Walleye newsletter. But it's a great resource. So anyway, so I get this. I got this. This is pretty wild. So this is from a walleye tournament. This happened actually earlier this month. And I'll just read you this. Have you a look at a 300,000 plus walleye? The two largest walleye fishing tournaments on Lake Erie, the Fall Brawl and the Walleye Slam, just wrapped up on December 3rd. And the winner of both tournaments was Ryan Smith with a giant 12.55 pounder. What is that, a 12 and just over a half pounder? He caught with his partner David Ward. Okay, so yeah. But again, that's cool. Good for this dude. He's financially doing very well now. But that's not why I'm talking about this. This is a picture of the walleye here. What a giant. Nice work. And I like that hat, man. I like that hat too he's wearing. It's like something that maybe someone like in Chicago, like Al Capone would have worn. Anyway, so here is some more information on it. Trolling just outside of the Cleveland Harbor breakwall in about 35 feet when the winning walleye hit about 11:45 p.m. on Friday, November 24th. The pair were relying on two popular diving plugs, the Smithwick Perfect 10 and Rapala Husky Jerk lures that are favorites for both trolling on big water or casting from a shoreline platform. Purple with a chartreuse nose, known as the Marvin color, is a mainstay. All right, so that's a picture of it right there, the color. And it's a remarkable. Wouldn't you really like to know if fish really care this much about color? Like this bait's got a chartreuse head and a purple body and stripes, but it's like, does that matter, or is that all just, fisherman based? I'd really love to know that answer. I think it's probably mostly fisherman related, but anyway, that's not why we're talking about this. So the folks who saw Smith and his fishing buddy Ward launched on Lake Erie at the Cleveland Lakefront State Park throughout the Derbies. Let me start over here. The folks who saw Smith and his fishing buddy Ward launch on Lake Erie at the Cleveland Lakefront State Park throughout the derbies, probably still shaking their heads. The two regularly fish the derbies in Ward's 19-foot Sea-Doo jet-powered boat designed to only carry two. Get a load of this thing, man. This is, look at this thing. They're winning tournaments out of a Sea-Doo. You gotta love that. I mean, look at that thing. That's really impressive. So I love this. I love this story. This is. Don't kid yourself. You do not have to buy. Don't be like me and think you got to get this highfalutin walk-through windshield, 200 horse, outboard on the back, fancy Electron, all this stuff. No, all you need is just a Sea-Doo watercraft, and it'll work just fine. The boat is more of a little runabout watercraft, better designed for summer fun than winter walleye fishing. You've got to be athletic to wrestle trolling rods and trophy walleye on dark nights on a rowdy Lake Erie in the tight confines of the craft. Smith fit that description as an Ohio State champion wrestler in 2003-2004 for the Olmsted Falls Bulldogs in the 112 and 119 pound weight classes. Sounds like these fellows are going to have to arm wrestle over the prizes because that fish won 2 fully rigged 6-figure boats. A Ranger 622 FS Pro Fisherman with a V10 Merc 400. Oh my God. So that boat is like 140,000-ish. And a Warrior V238, which is approximately 175,000. Oh my goodness. So that's quite an upgrade, I would say. It also helps if you're a family man, and we're getting back to this Target Walleye article. It also helps if you're a family man to have a wife who understands a husband who spends about 6 weeks fishing after dark. The best time to connect with a trophy walleye. In quotes here, my wife Stephanie understands my obsession. I spend as much time as possible at home with her and our kids, Emerson, 5, and Scarlett, who will be 3 in January. Stephanie simply asks if I'll be fishing after dinner. It became a regular thing during the fishing derbies with work, dinner, putting the kids to bed, and going to meet Dave to go fishing. Smith has already submitted to a lengthy polygraph test, which is what it was in the back of my mind. I was thinking this. The Great Lakes have had quite a history of cheating, walleye tournaments on the Great Lakes, and so it did enter my mind that there could be some shenanigans going on here, especially with a 19-foot Sea-Doo. He submitted a polygraph. I'm sure he passed it with flying colors, right? He has yet to determine how to share the two boats with his fishing partner, since taxes are a big part of a winter's expenses. Yeah, that is that's going to be very interesting. But great story there. Let's hope that there's no shenanigans involved and everything is on the up and up. No cheating, and they just are. I'm sure they're excellent fishermen. Let's be positive. I turned 48 recently, and we're coming up on the new year. My New Year's resolution is going to be positivity, because I think 2024, I need some water here. Actually, this is Coca-Cola Zero. And it's zero because of my wife. She's keeping me on the straight and narrow. 2024, I think there's going to be some negativity, so my New Year's resolution is to counter the negativity with positivity. So that's what I plan to do. So that's a good story. You can do amazing things out of, we as fishermen, we think it's just in general as humans, we think we gotta to be good at something. It's promoted to us that to be good at something, whether it be some sport or some other kind of sport, you gotta wear this, you gotta any kind of sport, and fishing's no different, obviously, but trending things, this fish finder's the best, this lure's the best. you got to spend all this money, and a lot of times that's not true. So what's most important is your fishing skills, the ability to, in this case, those guys were on the water a lot, and it's a 19-foot boat. It's not necessarily well, for the Great Lakes, that's kind of a small boat, but they you know, you can do amazing things with not a lot. I guess that's what I'm trying to say here. So your experience and just having that knowledge of the water and really, you know, being on the water more than anything is very, very important. So moving on here, yeah, you know, I used to think that electric was going to take everything, you know, the whole automotive industry, the outboard motor industry. I thought it was going to take everything by storm. Everything was going to be electrified. I'm having real doubts anymore on. I'm all for it, man. I'm all for electric vehicles, outboards. I'm all for a mixture of, let's say, ways to power things, okay? Because there's evidence that, not evidence. I think with time, we are running out. You know, oil is a finite resource, so we are running out of oil. There's only, I'm gonna bring this ball up here. There's only so much. Let's do it like this, like that. Yeah, thank you. There's only so much oil in the ground, and so I think having alternative resources, is a good thing. Alternative means to power things. So I love the idea of electricity when it makes sense. Gas when it makes sense, which it makes sense a lot. There's things where electricity makes a whole heck of a lot of sense. And what's happening now, I've seen some cars, some Japanese, I believe it's Toyota, they are actually getting into the hydrogen fuel cell technology to power things. So basically, Toyota is developing a hydrogen car. And so now, check this out, Yamaha is working on this. This is a hydrogen-powered Yamaha outboard motor. And this comes from Bass Blaster. Thank you, Bass Blaster, for bringing this to my attention. This is very exciting. I think hydrogen, the exhaust of hydrogen, which is crazy, is water. That is the exhaust that's produced from hydrogen. Water. And the beauty of hydrogen is that it's limitless. It's like limitless. You can make it like a gas station. Let's say we have hydrogen powered or hydrogen stations, right? So you have a hydrogen car, you drive your hydrogen car to the hydrogen station to fill it up. It's actually the hydrogen station that's making the hydrogen that you would fill up your car with. So that's really, really unique. It's everywhere. I think there are. I think there are real. There's a real future with hydrogen. The fact that the Japanese seem to be really putting a lot of focus into it. The Japanese with Toyota doing the cars. Now Yamaha getting into it with their outboard. I think there's a lot of real promise with hydrogen. So it's exciting. I like it because I don't think as far as like it's everywhere, right? You breathe. I think it's a certain amount of the atmosphere that when all of us are breathing hydrogen, there's a certain percentage of air that we're breathing that's hydrogen. So that to me is exciting. And let's just get into this a little bit from Bass Blaster. Bass Blaster is Jay Kumar runs it. I say this every time I feel like in this podcast, but I just want to make sure I give them enough credit here because I do get a lot of great information from them. So Bass Blaster has a newsletter just like Target Walleye. Jay Kumar is doing it. Brett McComas is doing the walleye side of things with Target Walleye. So check them out. Get on that newsletter. Also check out their website as well. So this is from Bass Blaster. The prototype shows what looks like a conventional Yamaha powerhead, but features what appears to be fuel lines adapted to using hydrogen. In order to achieve carbon neutrality with marine products while facing such challenges, the company is promoting a multi-directional development approach, looking to other new energy sources and technologies in addition to electrification efforts. The technology will mean that the Japanese outboard engine maker will be able to keep its conventional 4-stroke engine range, but adapt it to run on the new fuel, which is super smart, super smart. One of the things that I think happens, I now believe, I'm not going to be super controversial. In the last 4 years, I've been on quite a journey, okay? Last 4 years, I've really had my eyes open, but my eyes really started getting opened many, many years before that. And I now believe that we essentially have overlords, okay? People that make a lot of money, that they have their own interest, and they have more money than God, right? That rule over us. And in the old days, we used to have kings and queens and the dictators, and there's still dictators around, but you know, tyranny was kings and queens, and they would rule over a population. And I used to think, oh no, that is in the past. That doesn't happen anymore. Anymore, I don't feel that anymore. I feel that we have overlords. We have people that have more money than God that want to try to rule over us and dictate how the population should do things. And there's many reasons for that. One of the reasons is it can, keep in an energy, let's say oil, let's say having an oil infrastructure and all the gas stations, all the cars out there, that infrastructure has done very, very well for a group of people throughout history, okay? Ever since we first discovered oil and, we were able to use it as a fuel. There are individuals that wanted in the past to keep that the main energy source, right? So anything that might have popped up, let's say the electric car or a car, run on some other kind of fuel, they would squash that. They would keep that technology down because they didn't want it biting into their bottom line, right? So I think there's strong evidence that that has occurred. And now what may be happening is that it's become apparent that we are running low on energy. We are going to, if you look out a ways, the oil reserves are getting lower. And so I have always been open-minded to the idea of, climate change being a real thing, okay? And I was just I've been more like it's better to be safe than sorry, right? But I will tell you, in the last few years, I've become more of the opinion that I think it's more about just we need to be, because we're running, there's only so much oil in the ground, we need to be looking at other ways to power things. And I'm not going to go into any more of my philosophies than that, because this is a fishing podcast, for goodness sakes. I mean, we could talk about anything, but let's just it's Christmas. Let's be positive. And so the thing is that I think it's more about, okay, we only have so much oil in the ground, so let's give ourselves more of a varied ability to power things. What am I trying to say? We need more. Today, I'll tell you, maybe because it's Christmas, I've had my mind on a lot of things. My brain is not functioning fully today, so I'm really trying my best. I hope you guys can bear with me trying to get through this podcast, but it's a very magical time of year, and I'm all over the place in my head right now. So I think what the powers are, overlords, if you will, they see the writing on the wall. They see that there's limited oil in the ground. And so now, what can we be doing to look at other alternative means to power the world? And so that's what I think is going on with hydrogen. I'm all for it. I really like the idea of hydrogen. And but there are, some drawbacks to it. Hydrogen needs to be kept extremely cold. We're going back to the Bass Blaster article. Hydrogen needs to be kept extremely cold and must be pumped at very high pressure to fill a tank, making refueling a bit more tricky. Hydrogen is also difficult to store, with the atom so small it can easily slip through a tank's wall and leak into the atmosphere. That is astounding. That's incredible. The hydrogen atom just like goes through things. Goes through solid objects. Okay, that was news to me. In the automotive world, a hydrogen car will lose about half its fuel over a month due to leaks. That's crazy. Hydrogen fuel tanks also need to be very bulky to hold enough fuel at the right temperature and pressure, meaning they may need to be designed into a boat that's made to run on the gas. So, interesting, very, very interesting, but I don't think it's anything that can't be overcome. So I'm excited about that technology. I think hydrogen is it could make more sense than electric cars. It really, really could. And could you make it? If a gas station, how hard is it to make hydrogen? Maybe you can make hydrogen at your house. Although the problem with hydrogen, if you ever heard, I'm telling you, I'm a little rough today. I'm blaming it on the holidays. I need a sip of Coke here. So, where was I at? So another drawback that's not in that Bass Blaster article is that hydrogen is a very, very flammable substance, liquid gas. I think it can be liquid. Anyway, it's flammable. And that's actually what the Hindenburg, if you know anything about the Hindenburg, the Zeppelin that exploded years and years and years ago, it was filled with hydrogen and exploded, and it was a terrible, terrible tragedy. I probably should have included that, a clip of that, but I wasn't thinking. So, yeah, it's I like it though. I'm all for new technology, and that, a hydrogen. Wow, man, that is definitely the future. A hydrogen. Are we going to have bass boats powered by hydrogen? Would that be something? A hydrogen bass boat, walleye boat. I like it. All right, turning to let's see here. Unfortunately, it is early ice season. And we have temperatures in the upper Midwest that aren't exactly winterish right now, so I'm going to have to bring this up, but I think it's important. This from Target Walleye happened in Maine. Man drowns after falling through ice on Squakish Lake. Walter Demon, 62, and a friend were drilling holes through the ice on Squakish Lake to test the thickness before fishing. They heard the ice crack and they spread out in an attempt to not break through, but the ice broke and both men fell into the water about 75 yards from shore. The two men were communicating with each other as they tried to get out of the water and back onto the ice, but Demons suddenly said he was not going to make it, and his friend saw him submerged beneath the water's surface and never came back up. Oh my goodness gracious. The friend was eventually able to get out of the water and call for help. So that is absolutely tragic. You can't, as I had said earlier, I lost a friend to an ice fishing tragedy similar to this. And if you got it. If you're going to do early ice, it's not even maybe a bad idea just to do this, later ice, when there's plenty of ice, but because crazy things can happen. I've filmed a lot of ice fishing. I've filmed a lot more ice fishing than I've actually ice fished myself, but I've seen situations where even like in the middle of winter, there are spots that on lakes that can be kept open by birds. I've had, even on my little lake that I live on here, muskrats can make holes and keep ice open. There are situations, weather conditions, current's a big one. Anytime you get a neck down area, let's say you have a situation where, a really good example of this, whenever you have water that is going through a canal, right? Doesn't even have to be current there. A lot of times there is current there, though. And so you have to be very careful. Stay away from areas where you have, canals, bridges, where there's the lake is getting narrow, okay? Or it's two lakes coming together and there's a little channel there. You got to be very careful of those areas. Stay clear of those areas because there's current typically moving through there and very thin ice. So you gotta be careful. And I don't want to, especially a lot of people are getting out there now. These weather conditions are not great. You got to be very, very careful. I think it's a good idea to early ice, wear a life jacket. Life jacket, these life jackets nowadays, the CO2 cartridges in there, you could just pull and, if you can pull them, that's one way to do it. But most of them, if not all of them actually, are activated when you get in the water hits it, it inflates the vest, and you'll be okay. You'll float until someone can come out there and get you. That what happens is that your clothing gets waterlogged and you drown, okay? So have an early ice at least, guys. Wear one of those, less bulky life jackets. There's too many people that lose their lives this time of year. So I'm not trying to be preachy. I probably wouldn't be like this if I didn't lose a friend. And when you go to a funeral where someone's passed away tragically like that, it doesn't, you never forget it. So I'll just put it that way. And okay, so let's move on. It is Christmas. Let's try to, okay, so this was almost, this is a good story, okay, where people were rescued off the ice. So thank goodness for first responders. And this is a perfect example here. This is actually, I'll let the video basically say, I'll read what the video says here, but it starts, this is actually body cam footage from a deputy that, actually it wasn't the body cam footage it was another officer, but you could see everything that's happening. The deputy goes out, there's two guys and a dog that have broken through the ice. This actually happened earlier this month near me in Anoka County, not far from me. And this is a positive story. These guys were saved, but just watch this video here. It is really it's kind of chilling, but there's a happy ending here. And it's just you gotta think, like, what were these dudes thinking to do this? But let's start the video. All right, on December 3rd, 2023, at approximately 3:34 p.m., the Anoka County Sheriff's Office, with assistance from the St. Francis Police Department and Nowthen Fire Department, responded to a report that multiple... I got to go back. I went too slow reading here. Let's see here. Nowthen Fire Department responded to a report that multiple individuals had fallen through the ice and were unable to get to shore near the 22,400 block of Garnet Street Northwest in the city of Nowthen. All right, I'm starting the video back up here. Upon arrival, deputies learned that 2 adult males and a dog had fallen through the ice while ice fishing. After being in the water for an extended period, a passerby was able to push a canoe out to them to get into while waiting for emergency responders to arrive. Deputies Chris Fjeld and Kurt Grabmeyer arrived on scene, and noticing the males were showing signs of hypothermia. I got to go back. Must be a really slow reader. Noticing the males were showing signs of hypothermia. Deputy Fjeld, very Nordic name, made the decision to begin the rescue before the Anoka County Sheriff's Office Marine Unit equipment and resources arrived. So, yeah, this is pretty amazing footage here.
Suit, let's get in here.
Kurt, don't fall in. Nope. Give me that. Give me that.
Yeah, so again, this is body cam footage
Chris,
from...
He's going out there because...
Chris, I don't like it.
Neither do I. But let's get through it. These guys are hypothermic.
Body cam footage from the Anoka County Sheriff's Department.
Hold on, Chris.
In the middle of the lake.
You tied both of them?
We currently have a deputy attempting to get out in the middle of the lake right now.
They're tied him off. He's tied off. I don't like this at all.
Either.
So the deputy, those listening through the audio podcast, the deputy is now...
What's Chris trying to do? What's Chris?
10-4.
What's his plan?
Chris, 34, or fire is going to be here any minute with the Gumby suit. He just wants to get him a rope so we
So the Gumby suit is a dry suit.
What are we?
This is all we got.
Chris, we're at the end here.
So the deputy is going down. He's going out to these guys on the frozen lake, on his belly. He's going out to them.
Just in case. Well, let's just get ready because this is all we got. Yep, we're working on it.
Okay.
All right, go ahead. We got more.
Hey, Chris, go ahead. Go ahead.
We're okay here.
You got more rope.
So he's out there. He's there. He's tethered. So the police officers are on the shore, and he's tethered to a rope. He's got a rope, and now they're bringing him. They're bringing one of the guys. He's got the rope to one of the guys out there, and they're dragging one of the ice anglers back to shore. And I think they're swearing right now. There's a lot of swearing going on, so they've muted it.
I'm going to try to go to the other side there, okay? There you go. Good. Stop.
Okay.
Okay. Go.
Where we? You want to get him up here?
Keep coming. Come on. Come this way. Come this way. Come this way. Over here.
Okay, so now one of the anglers that's being rescued, he's swearing again, or someone's
It's
swearing.
thicker over here.
He is now on his belly, dragging himself to shore.
1028. We got one male back to shore.
More water here, so
Come on.
here. Grab onto my arm as tight as you can, okay? Ready?
Lucky to be alive.
Come on, baby.
Okay, so now here comes the dog.
Yeah, on Spring Hill.
Get a blanket on him right now. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Yo. Well,
Come on, Bubby.
Chris is
Come on, Bubby. We might still need you to get out there because... Come on. Good boy. Good boy.
Okay, dogs on shore. More swearing.
I don't like it. That's,
Okay, now-
I don't know. Oh, come on. Come on. Keep going. Keep going. You got this.
Okay, so the other guy, they're trying to rescue the other guy. He's in the water now.
Get ready.
Now
Get ready to pull.
he's got the rope. Now they're pulling.
We got it.
Not three. Go towards that wood. Stop! Sit around the crowd for the wood.
More swearing. Lots of. Listen, I totally understand it.
I know. I'm out of gas. I bet.
The deputy just said he's out of gas. He's
Let
exhausted.
him get out first.
Now the other, the last the second ice angler is now dragging himself to shore. He's been saved thanks to the deputy.
Nobody else, right, Chris? Yeah. One zebra 28, the second and last male is back on shore.
And luckily, everything worked out.
Come on, Chris.
Chris, this is gonna break, bud. Go.
Here, watch it.
Got it?
So there you go. The Anoka County Sheriff's Office wishes to remind the community that the ice on some Minnesota lakes and ponds is not thick enough to walk on. By walking onto the ice when it is still too thin, you are putting yourself at significant risk of falling through and experience hypothermia or death. Okay? Very, very important. If you're planning on going onto the ice this winter, please visit the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources website for a guide on how thick the ice needs to be before walking or driving on it. Well, here it is. Ice is never 100% safe. Recommended minimum ice thickness. This is guidelines for new clear ice only. This is a little bit more detailed of guidelines here than the one I gave earlier. Less than 4 inches, keep off. Come on, guys, keep off. All right. I know I'm sounding preachy. 4 feet when you got 4 inches, then okay, you're good. Again, new clear ice. 5 to 7 inches snowmobile, 7 to 8 inches side-by-side ATV, 9 to 12 a car, 13 to 17 inches a truck, 20 plus inches heavy-duty truck with wheelhouse shelter. So, yeah, just please be careful. And I'm sure there's some guys watching this video too that are like, well, the guy you notice in the video that the guy with the dry suit, he actually got there pretty quick. So kudos to the responders, the first responders there in Anoka County, the sheriff's department, just the ability to get the first responders out there quickly, and then also to get a guy with a dry suit out there quickly. The reality is, thankfully, the deputy without the dry suit was able to get out there and save those guys. It could have been bad, though. So I know people were probably watching this thinking, boy, that deputy kind of got lucky too. But just the fact that that guy with the dry suit was there on the spot, even if the deputy would have fell in, the guy with the dry suit was there. Everything worked out, thankfully. But kudos to those cops, because here's the reality, man. I'm just going to get a little bit... You see so much negativity about police officers, and it's just nice to see, positive stories, because they do far more positive than negative things. And like any occupation, you got jackasses in any occupation, okay? Just like there's jackasses in videography, in my line of work, video production. A lot of jackasses. I've worked with a lot of jackasses in my time, right? There's jackasses in law enforcement, okay? Of course there is. It's part of it's humanity. There's a ton of jackasses in humanity, right? So, but let's try to focus on what would we do without police officers, okay? And what would those guys do if those police officers weren't out there saving them? So more stories like this showing how screwed we'd be without police officers. That's, please? Okay, I felt like I needed to say that. All right, so moving on. So Ice Fishing Championship. So did you even know that there is such a thing as a World Ice Fishing Championship? There is, and I'm really glad there is. So let me make sure I bring up the right one here. So this is from Target Walleye. The World Ice Fishing Championship will be coming back to the USA next year. I believe, this is Brett McComas, he believes it's in Michigan. If you want a chance to fish for gold, they have 3 qualifying events coming up this season, and the top 20 anglers will get an invite to fish the Nation Championship in Rhinelander, Wisconsin on March 22nd through 24, 2024. Here's those qualifiers. January 5th to 7th, 2024 in Wapaka, Wisconsin, January 12th to January 12th to the 14th, 2024 in Canton, Illinois, and next year, February 16th to 18th in Lakeview, Michigan. This year's World Ice Fishing Championship will be held in, are you ready for this? Mongolia. Mongolia. That's where Mongoloids live. Or Mongolians. But you ever heard of the top? Anyway. So on Yugi, so let's see here. On Yugi Lake, UGII Lake. And that is, so the World Fishing Championship will be held in Mongolia on Yugi Lake in 2024. And so you're thinking to myself, what in the world, what is this World Ice Fishing Championship all about? And I said the very same thing, and I found, thanks to Target Walleye, I found this video, which I think you'll find very, very interesting. Wow. So, okay, I didn't talk it all through that because I just, if you're watching the video podcast, I just wanted you to really just experience it. But now I'm going to play it again. And if you're listening to the audio podcast, I'll kind of walk you through this, okay? It's quite remarkable. All right, so here we go. We're going to talk about this, and okay, so it's going so fast. They are ripping through the words here for the first time. This is what it brings this up on the screen for the first time in Central Asia. Let's see. Let's start it. So it says this for the first time in Central Asia. Guy gently jigging his rod. Ice fishing athletes. And I'm gonna have to back it up here a little bit because they're ripping through the text too fast. Ice fishing athletes of the world are invited to Karakoram City and Ogi Lake. Now, I'm not going to comment about the term athletes. We're just going to move on. And guys are ice fishing, obviously. And the one thing that I noticed, let me go back here, which is the capital of Great Mongol Empire, Genghis Khan. Familiar with him? So Mongoloids, he was one of the Mongoloids, I believe, Genghis Khan. All right, so, yeah. And so what's interesting is that all of these guys are using, it is really loud too, I'm gonna have to bring this down a little bit, but they're all using hand augers. It must not be legal to use, powered augers. Yeah. World Ice Fishing Championship, Mongolia, Karakoram 2024. There it is. Yeah, so Mongolian Sport Fishing Federation. Very, very, that's very, very cool. And again, athletes, let's stop calling fishermen athletes. Ice fishermen particularly. Ice fishing is not well, wait a minute. I'm changing my mind. So they actually can't use powered augers. So they are using hand augers. So I might actually change my mind and say, yes, these guys are actually athletes. These guys might be athletes. I might change my mind on that and call them athletes because they actually, and it's Mongolia. So there's probably, I'm seeing some of these augers, they look like they're 8 feet long. So yeah, I'll give you that. You guys are athletes. All right. So, oh, by the way, I wanted to show you. So these are the fish that are in this Uri Lake. I guess that's the name of it. Is that right? Is that what I said? Uri Lake or? This is what they're going to be fishing for. There are in Mongolia, and so there's all kinds of species here that look kind of similar, and some of them look exactly similar to fish that you'd find here. So there's a fish called the eyed roach. I've heard of a roach before. Siberian dace, a Siberian stone loach. These do not look like very big fish. Prussian carp, Arctic grayling. I've heard of Arctic grayling. The Asian common carp, perch, looks very similar to yellow perch. All these fish are similar because, not to get super nerdy, the land masses were all connected at one time. East Asian catfish looks like a Wells catfish, I would say. Burbot, just like burbot we have here. Northern pike, just like what we have here. They're saying it's a northern pike. A lennox, I don't know what that is, and a taimen. But interesting thing is, in the bottom it says, in Mongolia it is forbidden to catch the taimen. In the case of catching one of these species, the fish should be returned to water immediately. And if you're not familiar with what a taimen looks like, well, it's one of these. It is a giant salmonid, which is related, not related. Salmonids are salmon, trout, grayling, char, whitefish. They're a member, all those fish belong to the salmonid family. So that is that's what a taimen looks like, a giant salmon, basically. So you gotta, what does it say? That you gotta return those back? Is that right? In Mongolia, it is forbidden to catch the taimen. In the case of catching one of these species, the fish should be returned to water immediately. Oh, so there you go. I don't know why they included it here. Oh, it's just saying these are the species in Uri Lake. So, all right, where are we going to now? So that is kind of wraps up kind of fishing news, but I want to turn towards social media, what's happening in social media. You know, I love the Instagram. I'm not a fan of Zuckerberg, so I try to stay away from Facebook as much as possible, which is stupid because he owns Instagram, so I don't know why I'm on Instagram. I should be boycotting Instagram, but I like Instagram. Instagram seems to me like, I don't know. It's for what, you know, when I'm looking for fishing stuff, it's just more fishing related. I go on Facebook and I learn, about my neighbor's diet, or eating habits. I don't need to know everything that's if I'm trying to specifically find out stuff about fishing, I try to stay away from Facebook. So, but Instagram, I love perusing all the different Instagram accounts, trying to find out new stuff that's happening in the world of fishing. And I found some really cool stuff here. So one of let's see here. What am I doing here? Oh, I'm not even there yet. So let me first talk about upcoming content that I'm going to be doing. So as I told you, the weather's been really weird here, but I am going to try to get down to the Mississippi River, I want to pull a Dubuque rig. I've seen a lot of guys down there. They're fishing the break of the channel, and they're pulling these Dubuque rigs. That break of the channel down there is between 15 and 25 feet. It goes from 15, kind of breaks around that 15-foot mark into, deeper water. But a lot of times down there, this time of year, you're fishing in that 15 to 20-foot range in the daytime. And a lot of guys are just going up that break with what's known as a Dubuque rig. And it's a three-way, imagine a three-way swivel. You got your main line, which is like 15-pound, 12 to 15-pound braid. And then you got your three-way swivel. The top part is like a light, the leader is, like mono, like 10-pound mono. Some guys like to use fluorocarbon, but I think it makes more sense to use mono because it floats up. So it's going to float up. And you got like a 16th ounce, jig with a 3-inch plastic, curl tail or something like that, or 4-inch. And then below that, so that's like a foot or something, that leader to that 16th ounce jig. And then below that is the 1/2 ounce jig. with the same kind of plastic, 4-inch, like a ringworm or something like that, or a Gulp minnow. And that 1/2 ounce jig, you're bouncing on the bottom. That 16th ounce jig is above it. And, it's around like, I think, a foot and a half, you want that leader. And that typically is a fluorocarbon leader. So that's the setup. I want to try that rig. I was planning on trying that rig, but last week, but I told you that story already. So that was very, very disappointing. And I want to try to get down there, to shoot some stuff, some more videos down there. I want to try that Dubuque rig. It's just something where you can cover more water, intercept, more walleyes on that stretch, and walleyes and sauger. So that's something I'm trying to do, but I'm nervous about my truck. But that's something I'm possibly gonna try to do coming up. But what I know for sure is gonna happen. So I may do that this week. I may go to that I might do that earlier this week and then try to get a video up on Friday. But what's happening on Wednesday for sure is a Mississippi River smallmouth excursion that I did, and if you've watched any of my videos on the river, you know how much I love a 3.5-inch tube, Berkeley Power tube, with like an 1/8 ounce all the way up to like a 1/4 ounce, bullet weight, pegged, Texas rigged, because there's a lot of wood in the river. But I love that setup. I put that on like I rig it with a 3/0 EWG. Gamakatsu is my favorite. EWG, although Berkeley's making some really good stuff. I'm really liking their hooks too. But EWG 3/0 offset worm hook. And that's what I use all the time. But I switched it up. And in this video that's going to be put up on Wednesday, I'm using, let's see here, I got pictures. I'm using this Berkeley. You know how much I love Berkeley power bait. And if you don't know how much I love it, well, I really, really love it, because not only have I learned that it attracts smallmouth bass, for sure, but of course we all know that they hold on to it longer. It's just got so many benefits, especially the max scent. So the max scent, I picked up some of these like little generals for a Ned rig. So these are like 2.5 inches, I think. And so I rigged it up on a jig head. And that's the color I used too. That's called Copper Truce. And first time using that, and that was interesting. I'm always amazed that like fish will, sometimes we overthink things. All a Ned rig is, all that little general is just like, what is it? 1/4 of a worm, half a worm, 1/4 of a plastic worm. And fish eat it. So a lot of times I think we just overthink what fish will eat. All right? I really do. A lot of it is just, it's about the motion of the lure that attracts a fish to it. And granted, don't get me wrong, fish are more complex too. Like, I think there's a lot going on. That's the fun of fishing, right? Because sometimes you're like, okay, we're overthinking it. And sometimes fish are like, wow, they're doing things that are way more complex than you thought, that and you think their stupid fish brain would be able to, they're just doing things. What am I trying to say here? They're doing things that you wouldn't think fish would be able to do, and they're doing them. And sometimes they're doing things so predictably, you're like, okay, we're overthinking all of this. But anyway, moving on. I also used a Lil Super Trooper on a Ned rig, and this is a fun little bait. It's got those pinchers really make a lot of action. They vibrate through the water, and so there's a lot of action in this little bait, more than I really realized. And I love this color too. This is a color I picked up just because I wanted something a little bit more, would show up more in stained water. When I was out fishing on the Mississippi, the water was clear, but it was a dark day. The sun was getting lower. It was cloudy. So this is the color that I actually fished. I typically will fish like green pumpkin, but I went to that Copper truce color too, just because it's a little bit more visible in the darker conditions that we had. So what I was actually pairing that up with was this Northland weedless Nedster is the name of it. And by the way, you could see in this picture here, I brought this picture up if you're just listening to the audio podcast. This jig head has a very sharp hook. I was very impressed with it. So this is like their Northland's Elite Series line of baits. And first time using them, Northland in the past has been, this is kind of controversial to say this, especially living in Minnesota. I believe some of their baits in the past have been a bit substandard. And I think they've really started stepping up their game. And this jig head, you can kind of see what I mean by that. That is a pretty perfect Ned head there. The keeper, like the plastic keeper, look how perfect that thing is. Look how sharp that hook is. The weed guard on this bait, or on this jig head, everything's really dialed, and I was impressed using this thing. But that's what I rigged those baits on, and super impressed with this lineup from Northland. In the past, I've stayed away from them, just because I think their stuff wasn't as good as other lures that were out there. And now I'm going to really be looking at more of their stuff, because they're sponsoring more guys. I think those guys, on the Elite Series, on I think even on the Bass Pro Tour, I think they're seeing the writing on the wall that lures are getting so dialed, and pros are helping. Look at what Berkeley's doing. They're really getting stuff super, everything's got to be really, really dialed nowadays. So Northland has got the message, and I think, they're coming out with some good stuff. So I'm excited to see what else they're going to be coming out with. So, so now we're going to move on. Let me change pages here in my notes. I'm a notes guy, man. I've been a notes guy forever. It's simply because I have terrible, my memory is shot. I have a memory of like a 80-year-old. Maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but so look for that video. By the way, look for that video. So that video of me fishing the little General and the Super Trooper, that's going up this Wednesday, December 27th at 5 p.m. Not sure what I'll be dropping, as I said earlier. Not sure what I'll be dropping on Friday the 29th. Do I risk going down to the Mississippi River at Red Wing with my truck? I may. I'm not very smart. So social media, now we're into social media. Going through Instagram a little bit, I just want to show you some stuff that I thought was pretty cool. This is I don't know what else to call this, because this is from an account that I follow on Instagram called Lure News, and it's all Japanese. But you can see from following this account, you can see some really interesting baits that have not made it over to the U.S., but what the Japanese are up to, I see a lot of stuff on this particular account called Lure News on Instagram, so you should check them out. And this is a bait, I don't know, so it's I guess you'd call that wacky rigged. Looks like it's kind of on an octopus, a weedless octopus hook, something like that. Your typical wacky hook. And it looks like sea anemones, if you're familiar with like a dirty sea anemone. That's the best way I can describe this. Or dirty. Does it look like a food? It doesn't even look like food. I don't know. It's just it's like a Godzilla monster. Everybody, I'm convinced that the Japanese, after the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that's when Godzilla, the Godzilla creation, they started their movies with Godzilla, and it just became a fixture of Japanese culture. I think it just the bombing of Japan affected them culturally, you know, in the nuclear idea, like it was a nuclear weapon, you know. So, and then, you know, that's the whole idea behind Godzilla. I'm pretty sure he was created from nuclear fallout or something. So I think culturally, in Japanese culture, monsters and just like monsters created from, you know, toxic things, I think it's part of like why the Japanese make such crazy lures. And this is definitely a great example of that. So I have no idea what that's called. It may be called a imakatsu. I can kind of see that there. Imakatsu maybe is imakatsu. IMMAKATSU, I believe, is maybe the name of this lure, but I don't know what to call that. I mean, it's definitely bizarre. But there's another lure that I found that I'm very interested, that I learned from Instagram, and this is going to be kind of the last thing that I share with you here, but it's a good one. This is a cool company from they're from Europe, hence the name Eurotackle. And this really this bait intrigued me. They've been kind of teasing this. It's got noise, flutter, and flash. It's a spoon. It's for vertical presentations. So you're looking at this primarily, I would say, for ice fishing. 4 side blades, enhanced flutter, a spade shape. So it's got a good, it's called the Spade blade. We'll watch this one more time. Something that, you know, fish haven't seen before. It's super important in fishing, just to, you know, fish get conditioned, catch and release. Fish, you know, lots of fishing pressure, they get conditioned. I think it's important to change things up. And this is definitely a lure that looks different than anything out there. So here it is. So Eurotackle presents the Spade blade. And so it's got a big rattle chamber right in the middle. At the bottom of it, it's kind of hard to describe, but it's got noise, flutter, and flash. It's got these 2 little blades that kind of look like fins, almost like pelvic fins on it. 4 side blades. Yeah, so did it say side blade on there? So it's got, let me look at this again. So it presents... It's got a rattle system, 4 side, so it's got 4 side blades on it. Enhanced flutter, so that thing really makes a lot of action in those little blades. Spade shape, so you get an action from, you know, just the shape of it. It's like a spoon. So I'm interested in trying that. I'm probably gonna buy some of those and do a video on that. Maybe I got my tank right over there. We'll do a video where I put it in my aquarium and look at it and just test it out and see what it's all about. So looking forward to fishing that bait this winter. So we're wrapping up. Merry Christmas. Happy 2024. It's going to be here in a week. Wow, 2024. I'm looking forward to it. Also a little nervous, not gonna lie, but it'll be fine. We're being positive. Remember, positivity. And I'm just gonna end the podcast with my hat like this. And remember to follow us on YouTube, Instagram. So go to YouTube. If you can watch this. If you're listening to the audio podcast, you can find the video podcast up on our YouTube channel, Angling Uploaded. You could see me fishing. You can watch another fishing show, which is it's kind of our flagship show. It's a high production. A lot of work goes into them, but we have those up there. We have, I believe, 6 episodes up there. Look at the playlist, Another Fishing Show playlist. We got the Another Fishing Show podcast playlist to check out. So go to Angling Uploaded YouTube. You can also check out our Instagram, Angling Uploaded. And thank you. You found, if you're watching the video podcast, if you want to just listen to the audio, we're available. Another Fishing Podcast is available on all of the major podcasting apps. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. However you're doing it, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Gosh, I'm looking forward to it, guys. Let's go 2024.